Ha!
Friday night, 9 o'clock Eastern time, a little past our bedtime for this Jon Anik Ask Me Anything. Appreciate y'all being with us on the Anik Brothers YouTube channel, perhaps live on Instagram or on X. What is that? A Shadow Creek hat from your from the Patrick Mahomes golf tournament? Is that what that is?
That is Shadow Creek, baby, Las Vegas, invitation only. Maybe one day for you, Jay. Maybe one day, my man.
Oh no, you sent me a hat. Was that the one they gave you for free that you
No, I
sent to
bought
me?
you
The one that
that.
you
I
didn't
bought you
like?
that. You didn't
Sorry,
like that?
and all the Patrick Mahomes Oakleys that are kind of funky, right? And the red
Don't
polo that
call him
maybe you did.
Mahomes. It's Mahomes to you. All right.
Yeah, you didn't give
Welcome
me that.
home. How was your flight delay? I sent Jay a video. I was like, hey, man, quick turn for the Ask Me Anything after the flight delay. Thankfully, you're an absolute fucking warrior. If you weren't
Ha.
an
Well,
absolute
I
warrior,
just
maybe
spent a
this
few
would be
days
harder.
just spent a few days with John up in Connecticut with my daughters. Couldn't be happier to be back home in my own space. But no, appreciate y'all being with us live. We typically will do these more in the daytime, maybe a little bit earlier, but we were on a plane, so we wanted to come at you tonight. But yeah, questions start piling up right now. We're gonna ask Jon Anik some questions. You can ask him anything, and the winner, as we do every week, receives one of John's fighter cards. This one here is Mackenzie Dern from UFC 295. And what's interesting is it says at the top of this card, never been finished, right? And she was finished in the fight that this card
How about that?
helped you out with against Jessica Andrade, UFC 295. So anyway,
I also just went into my fighter card library that is labeled fans. And among those that are here for you folks in the not too distant future, Joshua Van Udo Schmedich, Max Holloway, Marab Dwalishvili, Sean Brady, Zhang Wei Li, Bilal Muhammad, Valentina Shevchenko. On and on it goes. Buy Sangor Susarkaya. Might be worth something someday. You just never know. So we're excited to be here. And yeah, nothing's off limits. Nothing's off limits. Last year we rewarded a fan for a mixed martial arts question.
so I left there today. I'll be back there in a few days, flying back to the great state of New York, and then we'll be driving to Philadelphia for UFC 330. Mackenzie Dern will be defending her belt for the first time against Jillian Robertson, Dean Thomas in her corner. I'm excited for that. So anything else you're chomping on before we get to some questions here tonight?
No, I mean, we're starting to really kick the tires on UFC 330, and Islam Makhachev is chasing down a record that a lot of people thought would never be broken, most successive wins in UFC history held by Anderson Silva. So even though maybe Max Holloway's striking numbers against Calvin Kattar are the most unbreakable records in MMA, Islam Makhachev has a lot of feats in front of him coming up next weekend. But of course, we got Mateusz Gamrot and Quillan Salkilld, the men on the marquee tomorrow. One more sleep for that. But no, we're excited. We're excited to have you out of our fucking hair and excited to be able to see you from afar on YouTube tonight instead of having you up in my grill piece, the close talker that you are. Yeah, yeah.
So I'll be talking
Move.
close in your face
Get out the
a few days
way.
from now.
Get
So,
out the
but
way. Get out the way. Move.
we do appreciate those of you that have subscribed on our YouTube channel. That's growing quickly. We appreciate that. So we're going to get to some questions here. And then for those that haven't been to our YouTube channel and seen some of the behind the scenes footage we have from UFC 315 back in the day in Montreal with John and Dominic Cruz, some shenanigans, some good content there. So check that out at your leisure. First question of the night, and we are going to have more behind the scenes content that we're going to be filming in Philadelphia next week. So going to get physical. Alexa, hey, whatever it is, I think it's Alex, can you talk about the Poirier, jog your memory, Poirier versus Hooker fight during the pandemic? Definitely the best pandemic fight with high level grappling and striking. What was going through your head calling that fight, if you remember?
Yeah, June of 2020, one of the best fights I have ever called. Sometimes I wonder how these fights that happened during the global pandemic will be viewed when it comes to getting into the Hall of Fame. And this one, I remember at the end of round 2, I said, one of the best rounds you'll ever see unless you like defense. And I remember Conor McGregor posted something about that line at some point in time. So certainly a memorable fight. And you're right, it was a lot of high level back and forth grappling, striking, bone crushing strikes landed with all limbs. To me, it's a Hall of Fame fight. And I guess when I look at Dustin Poirier, he got in to the Hall of Fame in the service wing, right? He has this fight that could go in, and then I think he'll get in as a modern era fighter as well. So I think potentially 2 Hall of Fame trophies coming Dustin Poirier's way. But yeah, it's a great question. And certainly Alex, whatever your name is, one of the best fights I've ever called, 2020.
Like referring to some of these guys as UFC Hall of Famers when they get in for a fight. Do you know what I mean? It's like, so Diego Sanchez in the UFC Hall of Fame.
Well, so here's the thing. Diego Sanchez, I actually believe on the merits of his own body of work should be a Hall of Famer, whereas Clay Guida, who was the other side of that fight that got into the Hall of Fame, would not be a Hall of Famer, But yes, I mean, Clay Guida can sign his autographs HOFer, and it means something different when Daniel Cormier signs it, I guess. But here we are.
Yeah. So those of you on Instagram, don't be afraid to come over to YouTube. We'd rather have you over there. Those questions will get populated. I know we're getting some good questions on the screen.
Oh, yeah. We love you live on Instagram, though. Thank you all very much. But yeah, if you want to really probe me, your vehicle, your conduit is the Anik Bros YouTube channel. As you were, Jay, as you were.
Bobby
you
Jones,
fucking
what
warrior.
is it like for your prep before the fights with Rogan and the crew? That's funny the way that's asked. A breakdown and some funny moments that stick out the most over the years that will always stay with you.
Well, we talk a lot about the fights, right? I'll just give you an example. So when I saw him for the first time before UFC 329, I like to give him something to think about sometimes. We're always talking about the fights, and it's always interesting to hear what he's burning on, if it were. But I just got up in his face right before UFC 329. I was like, I got 2 words for you. Mario Bautista. He's like, oh, okay. I just thought he would perform well in the rematch with Corey Sandhagen. Doesn't mean I thought he was going to win the fight or whatever. But yeah, it's fun. Sometimes there's more time in the dressing room than others. But funny moments, anecdotes. I mean, dude, it's hilarious, right? Just in conversation. Jay, I mean, you can attest having a front row seat to a lot of these conversations.
But when you talk about the prep before the fights, and nobody watches more film than Joe, so he's certainly prepared. But the idea that, he's not in the fighter meetings, you know what I mean? But you could be sure that he's aware of the athletes, even those that are competing early on the card. Yes?
Yeah. Oh, 100% locked in.
All right. Is Mackenzie Dern from Bobby Jones? Is Mackenzie Dern some of your favorite fights to have called in women's MMA? What would be your top picks? Also, what is your Mount Rushmore of women's MMA? It would be a blessing to win.
So, thanks for the question, Bobby Jones. Not necessarily a fighter card winning question, but you never know where we'll end up at the end of the night. So, top picks for my fights in women's MMA. So the moment I think that will withstand the test of time is Rose Namajunas against Joanna Jędrzejczyk the first time. Certainly the fight between Zhang Wei Li and Joanna Jędrzejczyk. There have been so many different ones. I would even say the first strawweight fight in UFC history in 2014 between Claudia Gadelha and Tina Lahatamaki. I wonder if I have a Tina Lahatamaki card in the fighter card library. But tons of amazing women's fights back in the day. And it's interesting. When I was doing some prep for the weigh-in show for UFC 330 before we were here today, when you look back at some of the most shocking results in UFC history, a lot of them actually were on the women's side of things. Mount Rushmore of women's MMA. Ronda Rousey, Amanda Nunes, oh, this is tough. I mean, Chris Cyborg probably deserves a slot. Kayla Harrison. Really tough.
Valentina, I guess.
Oh, geez.
I mean,
yeah, who's Valentina bumping off of the statue is the question.
All right. This is a leader in the clubhouse. I like this question a lot from King Fitz. What was the moment where you felt you most belonged in the UFC as a broadcaster? And was there a moment where you perhaps felt the burden of imposter syndrome to be especially heavy?
Jay, I'm sure you probably can answer this for me. I don't know if I just had my blinders on, but I never sort of felt like an imposter.
Yep.
I've told the story after my first UFC Fight Night, January 20th, 2012, Nashville, Tennessee. Riding high. First show's done. Dana didn't fire me on the spot. We're going to go back to the room. Hi, I'd like to place an order for room 788. I'd like a cheeseburger with medium well, no cheese, and maybe some grilled onions on there. French fries, yes. Oh, wait, can you sub onion rings? Let me sub onion rings well done. So I order my well done onion rings and my hamburger, and then I open up Twitter. It was Twitter back then. Now it's X. I open up Twitter, and it was like an avalanche of hate. So, yeah, I felt like a bit of an imposter, I guess, that night. But, sorry, go ahead. What?
No, finish.
No, I was just going to answer the other part of the question.
Finished, and then I have something to add.
The moment where I felt I most belonged in the UFC. So I called UFC 155 later that year in December of 2012 on 3 days' notice, my first numbered event. And I think that broadcast, after doing that show with Joe, two-man booth, and, he wrote something positive on Twitter back in the day. I felt like I really belonged. Go ahead, Jay.
Some really good questions. I was just going to say, and I don't mean this in a joking manner at all, but every time I crack a microphone in any way related to combat sports, I do feel like an imposter. I can't get Jon out of my head for a variety of reasons. We're identical twins. I've heard him do this for so long. So for me, I feel that in the truest sense of the word. Now, this guy won a card last week. Some fighters have voiced they don't like fighting in the apex. What about broadcasting? Do you prefer the intimate apex or the crazy sold-out stadiums?
So the new Meta Apex visuals are starting to come out, and it looks fantastic, but I can't imagine there would be any play-by-play man in the world who would sit here and say, kind of prefer like 1,000 people to 20,000 people going bananas like we just had in Serbia. So, yeah, give me the crazy sold-out stadium every day of the week.
But the intimacy of the apex is sort of special. And during the pandemic, it was uniquely intimate. I remember sort of just wandering over and sitting with Bruce Buffer for one of the events because it was that sort of empty. And so, yes, hearing everything, having the broadcasters be heard by the fighters in fight was a unique experience as well. From Herb 800, Jon, how are you excited for the Cuban Problem?
Cuban Problem! The Cuban Problem. Maybe the best nickname in MMA right now. Yeah, I know a lot of people are looking at UFC 330, and they're maybe wishing there was a little bit more meat on the bone. Right now, main card, Edson Barboza and Esteban Ribovics in the lightweight main card opener. Mansour Abdul Malik and Dustin Stoltzfus at middleweight. Jose Ochoa and Charles Johnson there at flyweight. Cuban Problem. UFC strawweight championship, Julian Robertson, Mackenzie Dern. And then Ian Machado Gary challenging Islam Makhachev for the undisputed UFC welterweight championship. You have Jalen Turner, Dante Johnson, some other guys featured on the preliminary portion. And, we're wheels down this time around. There's no wheels up. We'll be driving to Philadelphia next week. Can't wait.
I love it. Couple quick ones from Mike Ryan back to back. That behind the scenes y'all just put was sick. Dom is so funny. That is the truth. Dominic is hilarious. Mike is also wondering who's the better athlete, and his money happens to be on me.
Who's the better athlete between me and Jason? I would say that's a push, Jay. What would you say?
Yeah, I would say it's also a push. There's certainly, certain fellas are hotter on certain days than others. But no, for basketball, for example, Jon's a better shooter, right? But
and shooting's the most important skill in basketball, which would make me incidentally the better basketball player. You're better at arm wrestling.
Well,
even
but
if I could beat
defensively,
your fucking ass in an actual fight.
But if we're playing basketball, you got to be able to get the shot up, right? Don't you?
Yeah, well, that's fine. We could play one-on-one fucking yesterday, bro. But you're
From
not a
West
better basketball
MMA,
player than me.
2026, what's your favorite item? Well, we did play basketball. We played one game of one-on-one while I was up there. I think I won 12-10, got to win by 2. Anyway, what's your favorite item that you have in your office?
That's right. We did just play, and I lost. I wish I had my Alp nicotine pouches, the 3 millis right now. Wish I had those right now.
You have the cooler.
I do have the cooler. It's not filled with Alp nicotine pouches. I have so much amazing sports memorabilia. Certainly my fighter card library is among the most cherished item.
Gus is already disappointed that he wasn't top of mind.
Oh, Gus the Gorilla?
For your favorite item.
Gus the Gorilla is a nice, we do have what I believe the most dominant, amazing performance in UFC history immortalized here. Shout out Ross Baines, but Max Holloway over Calvin Kattar, those numbers will never be broken. So we have Max immortalized there. And a lot of sports memorabilia, a lot of cards, a lot of different things. Could really use a Nico pouch right now.
So didn't get to this one last week, but I think we got to it tonight. At Riley Kate Plays. Yo, what's up? Can I get a shout out this time? Shout her out.
Yes, you can. And I was just joking about the nicotine pouches, by the way. Interesting timing there. Happy birthday, Riley. My daughter Riley just turned 15. So breaking hearts already. But thanks for chiming in, Ry. We appreciate you.
Octagon Ski has a picture of Volk. That's pretty good. Has anyone brought in food or gifts into the fighter meeting for the team?
Yes.
Most delicious thing you've gotten, and who brought it?
Probably the lemon cookies baked by Quillen Salkild's mother. We had those in Australia, I think maybe earlier this year. Interesting timing with Quillen Salkilld, the man on the marquee tomorrow at the Meta Apex. But yes, we have gotten food and gifts. Shavkat Rakhmonov brought in some Kazakh chocolates that were great. I'm trying to think. Yeah, well, even just this past week, Borislav Nikolic brought us some honey, the beekeeper. He brought us each a jar of honey, and I brought it home. It's upstairs.
So Salkild's parents don't own a bakery. It was his opponent that night. But this is a good question. Who has more to lose, Gamrot or Salkilld tomorrow night? It's a good question.
Well, Mateusz Gamrot has been there. He has done that. He had a big win against Esteban Ribovics his last time out. He has resided mostly in the top 8 for his entire career. And even were he to lose to Quillen Salkilld spectacularly by knockout, he's still a relevant lightweight. He's still a guy, I think, that maybe if not a headliner anymore, still a guy that you can feature prominently and use in a gatekeeper role to potentially elevate. I think it would close his championship window. But for Quillen Salkilld right now, the dude's won 12 straight fights. He's all the rage. He's putting everybody away. He's got an entire country behind him, if not fan base behind him. So, yeah, were he to call for this fight, call for this matchup, which stylistically looks to be particularly difficult, and lose, it would not be ideal. But I think he's going to fare really well. I think he's going to fight really well.
So I have a question from me just before we get to the next one. So you're in Serbia, right? With 12 finishes, 10 first-round finishes, this unbelievable fight card. Yeah. And then you have like a week off before, really less than a week, because you're already getting ready for UFC 330. But for you, is it like you sort of still bathe in that Serbia card, like through Monday, you do your podcast, and then like it's a complete turn of the page? Is it not? And is that about how it goes?
So I'm not doing as many back-to-backs anymore. But if I was doing a back-to-back, right, there would be times where I would be in Serbia, and after the fighter meetings, I would be going back to my hotel room to voice Gamrot versus Salkilld, right? So at least we have sort of this week in between, but you have to turn the page very quickly in that situation because the prep really begins 10 days out. So, yeah, we were voicing some stuff for UFC 330 today, and that initiative continues in earnest in the morning, right?
We appreciate all the questions. The Anik Brothers YouTube channel is live and growing. Just started the channel. We appreciate the support. Head over there. If you're on Instagram Live or on X, head over to our YouTube channel. Give us a subscribe. Best question of the night gets a Mackenzie Dern fighter card from UFC 295. If you couldn't commentate MMA, what other sport would you like to commentate? Football?
Well, I think NFL would be
basketball,
a lot of
bowling.
fun. Major League Baseball, I think, would be great. I'm not exactly sure, how my style would translate, but I think that would be a challenge I would love to undertake. But I don't know. I mean, it's crazy to think about calling a sport like basketball after doing MMA. I don't want to call any other sport. After doing mixed martial arts, this is what I want to do.
From Puffo Bob, if you could change the result of one fight, which would it be and why? Good question.
I guess I would probably change the result of Kenny Florian versus BJ Penn, right? Yes. And I'll come up with another answer, and I really appreciate the question. So, yeah, I mean, I just know how much Ken Flo put into that particular championship opportunity at 155 pounds, and he just so happened to draw that night in BJ Penn. The most motivated, disciplined Penn was throughout his entire career. And BJ Penn, in my opinion, on his best night is the best lightweight in UFC history with respect to Islam Makhachev, Khabib Nurmagomedov, and Benson Henderson, Frankie Edgar, anybody else. To me, BJ Penn was the guy. So I would love to see if I could flip that rear naked choke to the other side. Ken Flo choking out the American BJJ black belt BJ Penn. Now, there are probably a lot of other results, right? Maybe fights that were a draw where you would like something conclusive, or there's a wayward decision. I guess Ross Pearson, Diego Sanchez is probably the decision that I would reverse. So there you go.
Yeah, that's a good question because a lot of moving parts in there. From Lily the Princess, who's your stylist, John? Always looking sharp.
Well, I got a lot of people that contribute behind the scenes, right, to try to make me present my best self. Thank you, Lily, for the question. But Amin Standard, J Amin, spelled Amin. J Amin's the guy. Should be your guy. Based in Miami and New York City. Let's go, J Amin.
Yeah, designs The Bachelor, among others. Cage Side MMA, what is the most important broadcasting moment in your career that helped you become the commentator you are today?
Little things, right? Going into the studio to do an update on Sean McDonough's show at 1510 The Zone and saying first ever and having him call me back into the studio and saying, what's your name? I said, my name's Jon Anik, Sean. Big fan. And he said, first ever is redundant. You don't need the ever. If it's the first banner, it's not the first ever banner, right? It's first. You don't need the ever. So little things like that have stuck with me, right? And you can always pick something up. But it's almost like, great question, but how much time do you have? I mean, broadcasting moment on microphone, it was definitely Bellator 1 in 2009, sitting down in that booth and not knowing what exactly I was walking into and having one of the greatest experiences of my life.
Couple more good ones here. This one's pretty funny. Another one from Mike Ryan. Does it annoy you that Ray Longo always directs his answers to Kenny?
I mean, how about that, Mike, right? I mean, it might as well be the Kenny Florian show, right? I'm just a figurehead. But, right, Kenny? You know, it's like I can just fucking shut off my camera and my mic. So I don't know that it annoys me. I guess it probably does. I would say that it definitely is something that I am aware of. And I guess he's not looking for a response from me in those instances. Jeez, Ray.
Couple more before we get out of here. I know you love when people ask you this one from Dustin F137. Who's older? I assume he means between you and I.
Yeah, I mean, who got out of the womb first? Who wasn't going to lose the first race of their life? Who was getting antsy in there, ready to go get shit done? And who was born 3 minutes later? Do I need to answer the question, Dustin?
Yeah, like on the documentary, Dominic Cruz was talking about how John bullies me. I liked the verb choice, actually, Dominic. That was pretty good. All right, Matt from Dagestan here, John. I think Dom Cruz and Ken Flo, this may be the winner, are your best fighter friends. Disregarding weight, if they ever fought, who do you have winning and how? Matthew, you are the front runner if I get a vote tonight.
No, I think we give the fighter card to the gentleman who asked if I could reverse an outcome of a fight. I have been receiving questions from MMA fans for so long, and nobody's ever asked me that question. But we can continue that debate at another time. As for this question, if Dominic Cruz and Ken Flo actually fought, I mean, that's really
that's why it's a good question. It's a really good question, though, right? Because not as if the weight class, you know, it could meet at 45 certainly at some point.
I think the fight probably goes the distance, and I'll say that, you know, I'll plead the fifth like Dr. Fauci is what I'll
you could give it to the bigger man, right? Kenny's a little bigger, but Dominic, you know, you'll be hearing from Dom. All right, one from your favorite Dicks Insider. John, if you had to cook a meal, the best meal you've ever made, the recipe that you perfected because the future of humanity depends on it, what would the dish be? Describe it. Walk us through it. You don't have to go crazy.
Well, I can make white rice, whether I have a rice cooker or not. I seem to, you know, be able to make that at the right consistency. So I'd probably pair some sort of Asian chicken with that. Maybe a little bit of oyster sauce, maybe a little sesame sauce. You know, nobody needs to know. Nobody gets hurt. You know, a little chicken, a little onion, and a pan. I use a fucking slow cooker. Use a crock pot. You ever use a crock pot? I love
just the fact that someone asks you about a recipe you've perfected and like you come out of the gate with white rice. It's like, I mean, like I get. Like,
well, that's the base. I was getting to the oyster sauce and the ginger Asian chicken.
I'm glad that you can perfect white rice. This is a good one. What's the biggest technical error that's happened at the commentary desk?
We're not talking about what's going on with Buff inside the octagon. You're talking about at the commentary desk.
Right.
Just kidding, Buff.
Perhaps some celebrity names, but I don't know.
I mean, there's things that happen all the time. Yeah, I mean, recently we have fonted some celebrities with their wrong names and thankfully we've gotten the verbals right,
Yeah.
But I can't really think of any. It's a good question. Can't think of anything off the top of my head.
All right, few minutes left. I'm going to give you one more question, then we're going to rifle through some of these and make sure that the best one has been chosen. And a bit of a basic one, Jon, but a good one. But do you still get nervous before a big card, or has that pressure become something you see as a privilege, similar to how Volk talks about fighting?
I do think pressure is a privilege, right? You feel privileged to be able to feel something like we feel, right? And John Gruden, who coached at the highest level, won a Super Bowl in the NFL, was asked recently how he would compare doing a broadcast to coaching a big game. And he said he feels some very similar things happening to his body. So I guess I definitely feel something different for UFC 330 versus like UFC Fight Night and Medic versus Rodriguez. The title fights, the consequences of what is at stake, I think elevates it. That Serbian crowd was one of the best crowds I've ever experienced, but it just feels a little bit different when we're just getting ready for a title fight and all the pageantry that comes with it. So, yeah, I mean, I feel some nerves, not nearly what I felt probably 100 pay-per-views ago.
I like this one from Bobby Jones. Would you bet on a tattoo again? If so, who?
Yeah, I
and
would.
The reason I like that is because for those that don't know, the 209, you wanted that tattoo. Go ahead.
Yeah, I've had several tattoo bets since. I wanted the Brazilian flag tattooed on my neck, so I said if Betch Correia beats Ronda Rousey, that'll give me good reason to get the Brazilian flag, but Betch did not come through.
Nathan Miles, how does Mighty Mouse's legacy change if he never left the UFC and ended up moving up to bantamweight?
It's unchanged for me. There are a lot of people who I think view Khabib Nurmagomedov's legacy as greater than Islam Makhachev's legacy because he finished undefeated and at his most dominant. You just couldn't touch the guy, but he didn't change weight classes. I think that what Mighty Mouse did at flyweight is just so otherworldly that leaving the UFC, I think maybe heightens his legacy because he was willing to leave and move up to 35. So Mount Rushmore guy for me every day of the week, and I'm not sure you can get higher than that.
Had to cue this one up from Miles, fresh off Serbia. I know it's a sort of long-winded question, perhaps. Which UFC event had the craziest, loudest atmosphere and crowd?
Probably Brazil. I think back to some of those Vitor Belfort crowds in 2013, Fortaleza show in 2017. There have been some amazing shows in Australia. The U.S. crowds are underrated. Canadian crowds are fantastic. I remember doing some early Georges St. Pierre fights in Montreal. Those crowds were great. I think my answer for much of my time with the UFC was Montreal. But Serbia is right up there with the best crowds we've ever experienced.
Am I seeing things, or does Jon resemble Dustin Poirier with this hat on? You'll take that, huh?
Yeah, a lot of women think Dustin Poirier is handsome, so.
It's more like the red war hat resembles that one. MMA Fight Picks wants to know, why did you move out of Florida?
So raising my kids in New England, Florida never felt like the final stop. We have a lot of family up here as well. So we're right here on the border of New York and Connecticut. Come through.
I'm raising my kids in Florida. They're doing just fine, right? Doing just fine. This is actually a decent one. I'm just sort of scrubbing through a lot of these. Appreciate all these coming in. Jon, craziest insider knowledge you had to keep secret before the UFC announced it? It's a good question. Might need.
Yeah, I mean, we had heard that Conor McGregor's knee was compromised going into the Chad Mendes fight, and look what he went out and did, So yeah, that comes to mind.
All right. Final question before we pick the best one. Which athlete from another sport would you like to see try MMA? Whose talent do you think would translate the best?
Didn't number 98 Max Crosby get into it with Kirk Cousins today? Right? Didn't he get into it with him today?
He did.
So, yeah, no, I think Max Crosby, the show Dana White Looking for a Fight? Max Crosby's looking for a fight. So,
well, Max Crosby's always looking for an octagon to sit right by as well.
Yeah.
So, all right. I want to find that best question of the night. I believe it was if you could change the result of one fight.
Yeah, Puffo_Bob. If you
why?
could change the result of one fight, which would it be and why? I actually think that's a question I would bring to the podcast. I would bring that question to the Anik and Florian podcast masses to answer. So that would be my vote. Do you have somebody else? We can give away two tonight.
Well, I mean, if you're talking about a decision, a wayward decision, that to me is not what we're looking for here. Because there were a lot, you can even, well, Jared Gordon beat Patty Pimblett, right? There are a lot of decisions. But to me, right, like Daniel Cormier, who's your family, right? I know how much respect you have for John Jones, but to say, hey, if DC got through John Jones one time, perhaps. So it's a good question, sparks good conversation. At Puffo_Bob, please message me on Instagram at Boston Anik. Hopefully you don't live in Canada like last week's winner. Just kidding. But no, everything was shipped out. And Puffo Bob, message me. We'll get that out to you. Appreciate everybody being with us on these Ask Me Anythings live with Jon Anik. Next week's going to be pretty crazy in Philadelphia, I would assume. Get a lot of behind the scenes stuff. Anything else from your loud mouth before I get us out of here?
No, thanks everybody for being here. Yes, we will have boots on the ground in Philadelphia. We'll have a camera crew with us, and we'll be documenting it every step of the way for the Anik Brothers YouTube channel.
Yeah, fans, find that fighter hotel. I don't know if we're staying in it, but we'll be finding it. Appreciate y'all being with us. Hit that subscribe button for the Anik Brothers YouTube channel. Much love to you all. Have a good weekend. Thanks again.